Yes, absolutely.
This week I thought I'd share everything I made for breakfast. I love variety when it comes to breakfast, so I've got sweet, I've got simple, I've got savory, and you can also make all of these ahead of time, which is great for saving time. To start, I always make a couple batches of cold brew coffee throughout the week. The general rule of thumb is 1 tablespoon of coffee for 1 cup of water. However, I like my coffee a little stronger, so in this 4-cup container, I'll normally add 5 or maybe 6 tablespoons of coffee. All you have to do is let it set overnight or even up to a day or two, and then strain it out in the morning. This is seriously such a cheap and easy way to make coffee, and I honestly will never buy pre-made cold brew from the store ever again. I enjoyed this cold brew with these delicious shortbread cookies I made. Now we're making banana pancakes. If you want to turn this into a meal prep recipe, you can make these ahead of time and then throw them in the freezer. Just make sure you freeze them on like a sheet tray first before you stack them on top of each other. Otherwise, they'll freeze and stick together. I recently just got this stainless steel pan, so I'm still trying to figure out how to use it. I hadn't done pancakes before this, but I think the trick is to cooking anything on stainless and not getting it to stick is to heat your pan up super high and then let it cool down. And then once it's cooled down a little bit, you'll add your oil. You don't want your oil to start like getting bubbles and even smoking right away. You want it to be cooled down enough. And I was pleasantly surprised with how well this worked for my first time. Even my first pancake didn't stick. I layered my pancakes with some butter and topped them with fresh banana, more butter, and of course, maple syrup. It was such a gloomy day when I made these, so it was just the perfect cozy meal. This next recipe is for granola. I use quick oats, dried cranberries, pumpkin or pepita seeds, sunflower seeds, and then I use cinnamon, maple syrup, almonds, and salt, and coconut oil. So I kind of follow a recipe for granola, kind of just eyeball it. I'll give you some measurements on the screen, but today I was just using whatever I had left, honestly. I like to use quick oats if I have them because they kind of make for a crunchier and I would say maybe even like a more airy texture. I don't know, the texture's just better with quick oats. I know a lot of recipes say to use old-fashioned oats, but I love going with quick oats. And also, if you like chunks in your granola, definitely go with the quick oats. Another tip if you want chunks in your granola is to add more liquid. So I'm doing about half a cup of coconut oil and then a little bit over a fourth a cup of maple syrup. Here I'm just adding in some vanilla. And then you just want to lay this on a baking tray, nice and even, and then bake it until it dries out. I'm just adding in dried cranberries. I like to do this after it bakes, otherwise they tend to get a little bit hard and chewy, so I just do it after. I like to store mine in these glass jars that are airtight, and I just store them in the pantry. But if you make extra, totally just throw some in the freezer and then thaw it out the next time you want to use it. This next recipe has quickly become one of my favorites. It's a high-protein, chicken-based breakfast biscuit, and it's super customizable, but I've been putting in peppers, green onion, white onion, bacon if I have it, and cheese, and then you throw in some flour, baking powder, oil, eggs, and I think that's it. I'll put everything on the screen though. I based this off another recipe I found. However, that recipe called for like 6 or 8 eggs, I think, and honestly, I can't afford to be putting 8 eggs in one recipe, so I tweaked it a little bit, made it better for me. So I'm just shaping these with my hands, and don't worry about making them like smooth. You kind of want them more organic looking and lumpy because you'll get crispier edges that way. So these I like to just keep in the fridge and then microwave as I eat them. The last thing I made this week for breakfast is this jam. I had these sugar plums that were starting to go quite mushy because I had just gotten worn out on eating sugar plums. So they were just sitting in my fridge. I wasn't eating them, so I figured I'd make a jam. I also am thawing out a frozen lime just in some hot water. Totally use lemon or orange or whatever citrus you have. I just had lime today. I think this might actually be considered a marmalade because it has the skins. I'm not sure, but I'm just quartering these pieces, chopping them up a little bit smaller. Some I just did in quarters, some I did, I don't know, eighths, twelfths even. So if you're going to actually measure this out, the rule for jam is 2 parts fruit to 1 part sugar, and I like that's in grams. But I just kind of eyeball it at this point. Once I started smelling these sugar plums cooking, I was like, I have to add vanilla. Vanilla was the perfect addition, honestly. And then I wasn't sure, vanilla with a lime, I don't know. But I ended up adding the lime just after it cooked down a bit so I could kind of taste it as I went. And I think I ended up putting in half of the lime. And I was really happy with that decision. It was perfect. Oh, I also added a little bit of salt. I served this on some homemade sourdough. However, I am just a beginner with sourdough, so I'm going to leave this one up to the experts and not include it in my video.